Hello and welcome to the F1Stop show. I'm your host, Sam Oney, and this is episode 35. With me is Wes Spearman. Wes, how are you this evening?
Yeah, I'm pretty good. Perhaps not looking forward to. I think it's 3 months without F1, so got to find something else to keep to keep us entertained. But I think we mentioned off there already. There's actually quite a lot of sport going on over the winter, which is always good. Yeah, I'm pretty good, thanks. How are you?
Yep, not too bad. Got the World Cup football to keep me entertained. As you said, we've got some sport to be watching for the next 3 months until we go again in Bahrain. And it is very, very cold. Very, very cold. Looks like winter's coming, as they used to say in Game of Thrones. Winter is coming. Anyway, the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, it was well, just another fantastic, well, I say fantastic, just another Max Verstappen finish, if you like. Because that's right, the Flying Dutchman claimed his 15th win of the season, which I think is the most by any driver in Formula One. What do you make of it, Wes?
Um, Again, dominant. You can't really you can't really say anything else, really, can you? Yeah, his 15th win of the season. The record was 13 previously, 14. And yeah, well, I know we're gonna be getting more races next year, and well, two more races next year. So 15 out of 22 is quite is quite incredible. Um, and for him to win, I think all but one of the last 10 races, with obviously Russell winning in Brazil. I don't think Perez won one of those last 10. Um, yeah, just an incredible record and an incredible season for him and Red Bull as well. And yeah, it could pretty much another faultless performance from Verstappen and Red Bull a couple of weeks ago in Abu Dhabi. Pole in qualifying, was it? I think he got pole. And yeah, led not every lap, but pretty much every lap. Yeah, won the race by quite some distance as well, by 8 seconds. So pretty comfortable victory. Um, and yeah, goes into next season two-time world champion. As with this one, a little bit more conventional than last season's, although um, slightly dubious in terms of the points in Japan as to whether he won it that race or not. But either way, I don't think anyone really challenged Verstappen after those sort of first 5, 6 rounds. It was pretty much all Verstappen, really. Um, yeah, I suppose looking back at the start of the season, you could say, oh, Ferrari messed up a bit. Well, they did mess up at points in the season, but over the course of the 22 races, Verstappen and Red Bull just fastest driver, fastest car, and I don't think you can argue too much about that, to be honest.
Indeed, because well, Red Bull, Verstappen, they're in their own world, to be honest, and we could see a good 3, 4 years of Red Bull dominance if they carry on like this. But as for the race itself, coming into it, the title was already wrapped up for Verstappen, um, and now it was all about the Constructors' Championship, and in particular, who would finish second in the driver's standings between Ferrari's Charles Leclerc and Sergio Perez of Red Bull. And it was the Monegasque driver, Charles Leclerc, who turned out turned out to finish second as he claimed, well, the runners-up spot in Abu Dhabi. The battle between him and Perez was just, pretty good because second place, all right, you may not be world champion, but that carries some big points. What do you think? Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, it was pretty good. It'll give Charles a little bit of confidence, I suppose, because uh, well, I suppose going back again to the start of the season, you might have thought I'd be challenging Verstappen, but as we mentioned, Red Bull just had the fastest car on the grid by quite some margin in the end. Um, yeah, second place in the World Championship. A pretty good result, I think. I mean, second out of 20 drivers is certainly not bad. And yeah, when going into the last race level on points with Perez, I mean, that's all he would have been thinking about. Just get that second place. Do not lose that second place in the championship. And he and Ferrari secured it. I think it was a pretty solid drive from him. I don't think he had too many challenges to deal with. Yeah, Perez catching him in the dying laps of the race. I think if there were another couple of laps added onto the end, then things could have got quite interesting. But yeah, wasn't. I think Perez finished. It was over a second behind Leclerc, so not massively close, but close enough where you thought if we have another 2, 3 laps, then Perez is going to be right on Charles Leclerc's tail. Um, and yeah, it was still a decent battle in the end because I think you had Perez's engineer saying, oh, we've got to go, got to push, and or, I think actually earlier on he said, "No, we'll be okay, we'll catch him in time." But then a lap or two later, he was like, "Perez, we got to get a move on now," um, which is quite interesting. Um, yeah, I'm pleased for Leclerc, and Ferrari obviously got second in the constructors as well. There was a little bit of a battle with Mercedes, especially in the back end of the season, where Mercedes were going to sort of sneak into second place. Um, yeah, I think a good weekend overall for Ferrari. You had Sainz pushing Hamilton at the start as well. Really, really enjoyed that little battle they had going into turn six. I think Sainz left enough space for Hamilton, but yeah, well, I wouldn't say forced him off, but Hamilton sort of drove, well, yeah, went off the track and probably damaged the floor of the car with those sausage curbs. I don't know why those sausage curbs are still in motorsport after we've seen the havoc that they cause. Um, but yeah, just overall a pretty decent weekend for Ferrari and Leclerc getting second place. A few more $1 million in the bank, I think, for him and Ferrari, and yeah, hopefully we can have a bit more of a close battle next year.
Sure, sure. Very looking forward to that. And that reminds me, Charles Leclerc finished in second place. I remember a few months back from WTF1 on Twitter, they they posted a picture of uh I think drivers to have I think started the first two races in second, I believe. So like when they'd finished the race, they started in second in the championship. And then I think when they win like the first two races, I think at the end of the season, they would go on and finish second. And there was this sort of trend because it happened in 2017 with uh, Vettel, I believe. And then again in 2019, Vettel again had finished second. And do you get the trend? Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, it's been going on for the last like 5 or 6 years, hasn't it? The winner of the opening Grand Prix then hasn't then gone on to win the
Yeah,
championship. So
that's it.
I think Vettel won in Australia, Bahrain, wherever it was in 2017, and yeah, obviously finished second in the championship, and then yeah, this year Leclerc won in Bahrain and finished second in the championship. And it's an interesting trend if you think
It
about it,
is.
because that's is it 6 seasons now in a row that's happened. I can't remember whether Rosberg won in Australia in 2016. He won the championship that year as well. I think he did. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if whoever wins that first race. I mean, it'd be interesting if Verstappen wins the first race next year because then we're thinking, hang on a second, what's going to happen this year? Is he going to win? Is he going to finish second? What's going to happen? Yeah, it's quite interesting and
It's
yeah,
very
just
interesting.
a bit of a niche stat if you like.
Mm,
Because I wonder how many other times that's happened in F1 history.
maybe
I
for
don't
us
have
to
those stats too. I just think.
maybe
What do
for
you
us to
think?
find out in future. Now, another big thing about the race was Sebastian Vettel. That's right. Four-time four-time world champion in F1 who has well, you can say it, finally, well, he's retired from Formula One and well, a great man on the track, off the track. How would you describe Vettel?
Just just amazing, really, as a race driver and as a person. As you say, four-time world champion. Can't remember how many race wins he's got, but certainly in the top
53.
53. Yeah, I thought it was in the 50. I can't remember exactly, but yeah, some of the, yeah, top five, well, easily top 10 most race wins of all time. Top five, maybe, I think. 299 race starts. It's a shame he can't do just race like one race next year,
Yeah,
just to make it a nice round number.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I'm pleased he got a point in his last race as well. Although it potentially could have been more. Not the best strategy from Aston Martin to do the one stopper. He had a decent little battle with Ricardo towards the end of the race as well. I think if Vettel got that P9, then I think Aston Martin would have pipped Alfa Romeo to seventh place. I think it would have been in the or sixth place maybe in the championship. So missed out on a few $1 million there. But yeah, just a great career that began in 2007. So 15 years in Formula One. I think this season was his only full season without a podium finish, which is quite incredible if you think, given how long he's been racing in Formula One. Um, yeah, it's a bit of a shame that this year hasn't perhaps gone quite as well as he and Aston Martin would have hoped. But yeah, just a great career and great bloke, and he'll be hugely missed. And it's going to be weird watching F1 next year and not seeing that VET on the timing screens. He's going to leave a hole in F1, that's for sure.
Well, Alonso's got some big shoes to fill for Aston Martin. No pressure, Fernando. No pressure. But do you think he might make a comeback in motorsport in some sort of discipline, whether it's Formula One or another form?
Uh, Potentially. No, obviously other drivers have done it, like Alonso, as you mentioned. Um, but I don't know. Maybe we could see him as more of like a steward or that sort of role.
Advisor,
A pundit,
perhaps?
maybe. Who knows? Yeah. Somewhere in the teams where it's strategist or maybe not an engineer, but that sort of person. Team principal. Who
Who
knows?
knows?
We'll get onto that in a bit. Yeah, I don't think I think he's still. I think he's younger than Hamilton actually. Sebastian Vettel. I think he's a few years younger than Hamilton, and Hamilton's what 38, 39.
Really? I always
I
thought
think
Vettel was
so.
the
Yeah.
older one. I always thought Vettel was the older one.
I think yeah they both made their debut in 2007, but yeah, I think Vettel. I know Vettel was the youngest world champion at the time in 2010 when he was 23, I think.
Yeah,
Um,
22 or 23,
yeah,
something like that.
I think Hamilton's got a couple of years on Vettel, but yeah, we've seen Raikkonen race into his 40s. Alonso's now into his 40s and still racing for another few years.
Yeah.
So yeah, who knows? Give it a couple of years. Michael Schumacher came back as well, as did Kimi Raikkonen. Um, yeah, who knows? Give it a couple of years, and we could see Sebastian Vettel back on the grid. Don't no idea where. Probably not in a top team, though. Maybe who knows? It is F1. Anything could happen, really.
And just lastly on the race, we had there, Formula One is nothing without a few retirements, as we've seen throughout the years. And well, Abu Dhabi was no different with Hamilton and Alonso and Nicholas Latifi suffering retirements during the race. Um, Not that retirements are not great, but when you have six DNFs throughout a season, especially one that consists of 22 races, that kind of it's almost a problem because you want to finish races and it's not quite worked out for Alonso this season and Alpine.
Yeah, I'm just wondering how much that sort of mechanical issues and those sort of problems with the car sort of affected his decision to leave the team and move to Aston Martin. Yeah,
I
as
still
you say,
can't get
60.
over the Aston Martin
I know it just feels weird, doesn't it?
change, to be honest. I mean, because I know there's a way of, switching from one team to another, but I just thought this year was a bit just by surprise. Sorry to cut you off there.
Yeah, that's all right. Um, yeah, as you say, 60 NFs in 22 races is it's between a quarter and a third, which is a lot at the end of the day. When you think about, I mean, Hamilton retired in Abu Dhabi as well, as you mentioned, and I think that's Mercedes' one and only mechanical failure or mechanical retirement this year. So when you compare that to Alonso, who's had, as you say, 6 retirements, but he's also had a lot of, I think he's had various engine issues or some sort of problems with the car during the race that's caused him to lose power or whatever and drop a few positions. Yeah, his run of luck was not great this year. Hopefully Aston Martin can sort of provide him a better car, more reliable car
Yeah.
next year. Quicker car as well, although Alpine did, I think they got 4th place in the constructor, so best of the rest, which is pretty good effort from them. Um, yeah, 60 and Fs in 22 races is just too much. And for a team like Alpine as well, one of essentially their own constructor is this Renault, one of the biggest car companies in the world, essentially. For them to be developing a car that retires 6 out of 22 races is, yeah, not ideal. And as I say, hopefully for Alonso anyway, his couple of years, 2 3 years, however he's got Aston Martin will be relatively retirement free.
And Nicholas Latifi in the Williams, who won't be here next season, he also retired in Abu Dhabi. Apparently, no one knows what it was about. I thought watch listening to the race when he collided with Mick Schumacher, I would have thought that would be the reason why he retired, but no, I guess he carried on after that point, and then something must have happened.
Yeah, I mean, according to Wikipedia, anyway, it was an electrics issue. I don't remember hearing anything about it or seeing anything about it. Um, yeah, in another driver who's not going to be in F1 next year for, well, he hasn't exactly lit the world up, let's say. Yeah, it was a good spin though between him and Mick Schumacher at the hairpin. It was pretty much synchronized, wasn't it? It's
Yeah.
actually quite good to watch.
So, and another thing, actually, just before we move on to team principles, um, Hulkenberg is back in F1. How you feeling?
Yeah, Hulkenberg. I don't know if you saw his Instagram when he announced it, but he basically got loads of memes from when he was like reserve driver at Aston Martin, memes off social media that people had made, and it was brilliant. And he said, "No more super sub" or something like that. Um, yeah, I think it's yeah, I'm good to see him back because I think he's quite got as much out of F1 that he deserves, if you like.
Hmm.
He's got a lot of he's raced in a lot of Grand Prix and has been in F1 for I say about 10 or 12 years now. He started out with Williams and then raced for quite a bit with Force India. Then, obviously, over the last couple of years, has been out of things with sort of Aston Martin as their reserve. Um, yeah, I think when we mentioned in the last episode what sort of driver he'll be like is consistent. I think reliable. Hopefully, score some points for Haas, and I don't see him getting that elusive podium in for Haas. But who knows? There might be a race where I mean Haas have been on the up a bit, but I still don't quite see them fighting for podiums soon. Um, yeah, good to see him back, and be interested to see how he gets on with Magnussen, given there is a bit of tension and history between those two. I can't remember what Grand Prix it was. I think it was 2016 or 2017. We had that infamous quote from Magnussen in the press conference afterwards, which I'm not going to mention on the podcast. But yeah, I think actually reading about that, I think they use that as some sort of icebreaker between the two of them, just sort of some funny sort of way to start a conversation, which is quite nice. Yeah, I think Hulkenberg will be a good seat for Haas and hopefully score some points or be reliable and not cause as much damage as Mick Schumacher. I think Mick caused the most damage of anyone on the grid. I think I saw something a
Wow.
few weeks ago. Um, yeah, it's sad to see the Schumacher name drop out, although he could potentially be with Mercedes as a reserve next year. There's nothing been confirmed yet, but I know I know Toto Wolff has sort of expressed interest in having Mick as a reserve, but as I say, nothing's been confirmed yet. Um,
Don't
yeah,
forget
obviously
about Danny Rick.
Ricardo's back to Red Bull. He left Red Bull because he didn't want to be the second driver to Verstappen. Then went to Renault, did okay there. Went to McLaren, is released a year early on his contract, and is now back at Red Bull as a third driver. So he's not had the best career moves, but yeah, with Perez's contract up, I think at the end of next year or end of 2024, then maybe he sees that as a way back into Formula One. And I think given where Red Bull are, obviously pretty dominant this season. Yeah, I think he sees that as a way back into Formula One and back into that race here, which I don't blame him. Um, I'd rather. Would you rather be a reserve driver for a top team or race for somewhere like Haas or Alfa Romeo or Aston Martin? Is the question I think Danny Rick was weighing up. Um, yeah, to take a year out if you like, be that reserve driver. It could pay off for him. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see.
Now, in the last couple of days or so, Ferrari and Mattia Binotto have parted ways. That's right. Binotto will no longer be Ferrari's team principal from, I think, after the end of December. So I think when I first saw this, seeing that Binotto and Ferrari were going to part ways, the first thing that came to my mind immediately was team strategy. That's it. I thought when you get your strategy right, it pays off, and good results happen. Whereas when you get it wrong, mistakes are likely to be made. And as you know, time is very important in F1, especially on the track. And when you lose time, it has an effect on the result. So, what were your thoughts when you first saw this?
Um, I'm not really sure to be honest. I think in a way it's probably the right move for Ferrari. Because as you say, their strategy at times this year was yeah, not the best to be polite, I suppose. And yeah, I suppose having not won a championship in I think the 4 years he's been at the team is for a team as prestigious and as historic as Ferrari, you want to be winning champion. You want to be fighting for those championships, and they just haven't really been doing that. So I think perhaps a fresh set of eyes at Ferrari, fresh person at the helm, whoever that may be, Sebastian Vettel, maybe, who knows? Um, what a comeback that'll be. Yeah, I'm retiring. Oh, I'm back in F1 for one of the top teams. um, yeah, I don't think it'll be said, but yeah, whoever it will be who replaces Binotto is you're going to have a big task on their hands, and I think it's Ferrari have had a recent history of going through a number of team principals. I think I saw something on Twitter that Chantal was principal for over 20 years or something like that. But over the last few years, they had obviously Binotto and Bene, and before Bene, there was one guy who served just one season, I think, and then they've been fairly regular. Whereas compare it to Mercedes, for example, or I think Red Bull, Christian Horner's been there since the start. I think in 2005 or '06. Toto Wolff's been there, I think, since 2013. So we've only had a couple of years of Jos Capito at Williams, but before that it was Claire Williams and Sir Frank Williams. Alfa Romeo, Sauber have got Fred Vasseur. The team, yeah, basically the rest of the teams have had fairly stable relationships with their
Mm,
team principal. They've stayed the same for quite a number of years, whereas Ferrari have been chopping and changing a bit. So
yeah.
whoever's going to come in has got, I wouldn't say big shoes to fill, but just a mammoth task on their hands to get Ferrari back on that top step, back on top, challenging for world titles, drivers' titles, constructors' titles, and regularly fighting for that top step of the podium. So yeah, whoever that's going to be, I'm not a clue who the sort of Italian press is tipping off to be the next Ferrari team principal. But yeah, it's going to be a tough job. Let's say that.
It is. And well, that's the 2022 F1 season. Max Verstappen, two-time world champion. Um, Ferrari got their strategy, most of it, all wrong. Can you Mercedes finally got a win? Finally got an F1 win this season, despite regulations not being on their side. However, Hamilton has gone for the first time in his F1 career with no wins, I believe, zero. And Sebastian Vettel, we say thank you and bye bye. Yep, no Sebastian Vettel for F1. So we look forward to next year's season when we start it all again in March with testing in Bahrain. And yeah, if you had right, last question. If you had to pick out one moment that stood out for you this season, what would it be?
Um, I suppose Russell's win in Brazil was pretty good.
Hmm.
But I think just looking back, I think just the British Grand Prix, Science's
Oh,
first
you read
win.
my mind.
Science's first win. You had the freeway battle with, I think it was Leclerc, Hamilton, and Perez.
Yeah.
Um, it was I think it was one of the best races of the season. Certainly one of the highlights, and yeah, one of the most memorable races
Mm.
that sticks in my mind from this season. Sorry, I've just nicked your
Oh,
moment as well.
yeah. No, it's fine. It's fine because it means I don't have to talk more and I can just do a nice outro. And through goes Hamilton. So, but he didn't win the race. That was the only downside to it. He didn't win the race. But yeah, Silverstone was probably my favorite moment of this season. And well, that's it. 2022 Formula One season cut and closed. So we hope you've enjoyed this episode. I've been your host, Sam Oney, and thank you, Wes. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and you can also email us at f1stopshow@gmail.co.uk. It's a goodbye from me. Bye bye. And it's a goodbye from Wes.
Bye bye.
And we hope to see you soon next time.